Harleen, Mu Yuan Lee, Car 2, no, Car or Car 2, sorry, Susan, sorry, Iris, it's my favourite flower, love irises. Samuel, Sam, is that all right? Asha? Yeah. How's that, the timing? Srijana? Yimin? Nevada? Conchira? Did I miss anyone? No, I ticked everyone. Yeah. Okay, so we'll probably get through today's stuff early, so we'll have time at the end if you want to make groups or talk about anything else or ask about next week or whatever. We'll see how we go. So I'll just go through a couple of the theory questions and then we're going to do and get you into groups, so you can just stay on the tables that you're at, that's fine, unless you want to move. And then we'll do a little exercise just to familiarise yourself with the website. So, number 1, outline the advantages of incorporation over other forms, such as partnership. So, the primary advantage for a company is you can get lots of money, right? You can raise lots of finance. And number 2, you can limit your liability. So you can limit your liability to the value of the shares. Unlike a partnership, you are jointly and severally liable. So it's very common for accountants to to form partnerships. So if you do that, make sure you know, if you get into that later when you finish your career, make sure that you do it properly and you set it up properly, because you don't want your partners to be able to basically incur debt that you might, and then they abscond and then you have to pay for it, right? So you have to make sure that whoever you go into partnership with, if you do that, that you have a very good partnership agreement, number 1, and that the people that you're in partnership with, that you know something about them, because it happens quite a lot. Okay. But yes, so companies, so there's lots of advantages for companies. However, they do all the logistics and all the bureaucracy and all the compliance and everything that goes with setting up a company is comprehensive, keeps us in jobs for a long time, but it's also, here we go, it takes your time away. So all the time you spend on compliance, that's time that you don't have to do other things. Okay, so you should know the difference between a proprietary company and the public company. So not just the name, the fact that the proprietary companies have the PTY or PTY Ltd in their name, but proprietary companies have quite a few limitations. They are limited with the number of members that they can have, up to 50. So I'll put this all up on Blackboard, but I'm just summarising it now for you because it's there in your reading and in the lecture notes. So with your PTY company, your proprietary companies, they must have a share capital, right? Where public companies, they can include no liability companies or share capital companies. Private companies must have between 1 and 50 shareholders, whereas public companies, can be unlimited, but they must have a minimum of 3 directors, where proprietary companies only required to have 1. It's not as easy with a private company to raise funds from the public, where it's actually very easy for a public company to do so. Private company can't actually raise money from the public, right, at all. With your proprietary companies, they are classified as either large or small. If they are classified as small, if they meet that test, then their compliance requirements are significantly reduced. So the amount, they don't have to comply with Australian accounting standards, but what they must do is you have to keep proper records. right? So in the event that you need to be audited or that you do have to prepare financial accounts, that you've actually got all the records to do so, right? Whereas public companies, if you're listed on the stock exchange, you need to be audited, so you have to pay for an external auditor to come in as well, and they can be quite expensive. Just go and have a look at the audit fees of BHP, Rio Tinto, Caltex, any company. Go and have a look at their annual report. Do a Control F, so Control Find, and just type in audit, and see what the audit fees are. And it's usually in the millions of dollars. So accountants, we get paid well. So not only do we get paid well for the auditing, but there's all the consulting side of stuff as well. So when organisations restructure, things like that, so accountants usually get engaged to help with all that restructuring process, looking at the way that companies are being managed and where they can find cost savings, all that side of stuff. So, all right, so with that small test down the bottom, just so you know that they must meet at least 2 of those criteria to be small: your revenue less than 25, gross assets less than 12.5, and your number of employees less than 50. All right, and if you are able to be classified as a small proprietary company, it's definitely beneficial, okay, from a compliance point of view and cost. So we've done that already in this question. Okay, with the accounting standards and with the large and small as well, there is a whole new standard, which is all fairly new, which looks at the reduced disclosure regime, right? It's primarily set up for not-for-profit entities, all right, that are often set up as proprietary companies and that as well. And that accounting standard is very new. Okay, so it's only 2017, I think it came out. Okay, differences between shares and debentures. Hopefully that's obvious. Okay, a share, you are raising money from shareholders, where debentures, it is debt financing and you pay an interest on that. Different types of shares have different things attached to them. Ordinary shares are your primary voting, have your primary voting rights, whereas preference shares usually have commands on dividend monies before others. All right, they have preference. And as we said, not all preference shares are the same. And debentures can be secured or unsecured. So what are the current arrangements for setting of accounting standards? So you can read this in your textbook. Let's keep it simple. The Minister, so the Minister and the Treasurer appoint the main people in the Financial Review Council. So, they're a Financial Reporting Council here. So it's the Australian Government. The Financial Reporting Council doesn't have any real power though. All they have is a oversight kind of function. They can try to help set the agenda, but they actually have no power. The power comes from the Australian Government, but the Australian Accounting Standards Board takes its direction from the International Accounting Standards Board, because we've signed an agreement to say that we'll use international standards. However, under the corporations law, we are and do have modifications. As I said in the lecture, some of those modifications relate to not-for-profit entities, superannuation, land under roads, any accounting standard that is from 1001 to 1099 are Australian specific standards. Anything with a prefix AUS relates to not-for-profit entities, right? And they are modifications to the international standards, right? So just so you know that the standard setting arrangement, it's a very bureaucratic process, very, very bureaucratic, very political. When you go to the International Accounting Standards Board, so if you ever go and have a look on ifras.org, which is the International Accounting Standards Board website, it shows who the members are and what their agenda is and what's important, and their primary agenda is being influenced by major capital markets in the UK and the US, the International Monetary Fund, and those ones as well. So they do have an agenda. They have an agenda to converge accounting standards so that there's only one set. So at the moment, US still use the US GAAP, so it's a big thing for them to transfer it over. And Australia has very little power in that whole process. And remember, we're dealing with accounting and accounting numbers, our economic markets, our financial markets, all of those things, and accounting numbers do make a difference. Because Rupert Murdoch didn't uplift his entire business and move it to America for nothing. He did it because the nature of his business meant that his companies look better under US GAAP accounting standards compared to international standards, and he didn't want a bar of it. And he's a billionaire, and you know, he knows what he's doing when it comes to entrepreneurial activities and all that sort of stuff. And I'm sure he's been engaging in lots of different activities, some of them good, maybe some not so good. But, you know, you have to be a little bit forgiving in the sense that, you know, they employ a lot of people. Yes, they have got a lot of money, and some people don't like that there's only a small portion of people in the world that have got that, and there is inequality, and it isn't fair. But just remember that some of these entrepreneurs have taken big risks to get where they are, and you shouldn't necessarily begrudge them having done well for themselves. Anybody else? Yeah. Okay, now let's tick off the last couple of names. Korchika, Manuela, Ranmuni. Now Ranmuni, you've got 4 names here. This is not going to fit on your transcript. Ranmuni Rushani Nicolosha Samoya de Silva. I don't think it's going to enough space on your. What would you like me to call you? Rushani. Okay. There we go. That's easy. Shinyu. Gi. Chinyu. No. Rupa. Harleen. Who else have we got? Yemin. Conchira. Okay, well, I haven't got you on my list, so I'll have to tick you off at the end, all right? So make sure, so... Was it?
Korchika.
Korchika? I called out your name first. Korchika. Now, how do you say that surname? Chandra Maan. Just Chandra Maan, okay. That sounds easier than what it looks. Okay. Now we're going to have a look at case studies 3 and 5. So just on the tables that you're on, and you can't sit by yourself over there. You'll have to move. That's all right, I'll get it to move to someone else. So what I want you to do in your groups, the idea of this, I want you to familiarise yourself with the ACCT website. So pull your computers out. If you haven't got a computer, jump on the computer that you've got at your desk, right? Or sit with your partner. So if you two want to sit together, what I want you to do is go through this and familiarise yourself with the website. So with case study 3, I want you to have a look at the website, and you need to find that form. So everybody needs to do this, right, in your groups. You need to find that form. 201, and it's about 11 pages long, and I want you to have a look at it. This is only one form of many, many forms you would fill in if you were starting a company, and this is why a lot of people buy a shelf company. So all of this is like a back door into setting up a company, because all this stuff is already done. All right, so this is one form. So have a look at that form 201 just to familiarise yourself with the form. And then number 2, with the case study 2, go on and start to have a look. There will be some terminology differences, from when I wrote this out, because the website has changed. Websites change all the time. Right, so I want you to start to have a look. So everybody find that form 201, and I want you to start. It's 11 pages. You don't have to fill it in, right, but I'd like you to look at it and peruse it. See if there's anything on there that looks a bit weird or you might have an extra question about, right? And then go on to the next one, the case study 5. And I'll just see if I can tick these names off. What name was that? Are you, maybe you're meant to be here? You any of these ones? Xin Yu?
Yeah.
How do I say that?
Xin.
Is that, you want me to call Xin Yu? Xin, like a Z. Xin Yu. You. Esther? I think you're on my list. Esther. You're right. Esther? Cindy?
Yes.
And. Yeah. You're not on here?
I'm here.
Oh. Cindy? Did I tick you off? Did I tick you off? Iris. Who did I miss? Cindy. You. Corchica. Got everybody. Okay. Okay, a quick way to find your way around if you're not quite sure. With most sites, if you go to the bottom and you click on the site map, this will quite often, it summarises everything for you. And if you want to get hold of the forms, where are they? Okay, so if you want that form 201, in the search function, just write form 201 if you haven't found it. So in the search function, write form 201, and then it comes up with a couple of options. So we'll go back to those options. Right, if you just click on the first one, it takes you to that. If you go to the bottom of this page, it says download form 201 down here. All right, download the form. It's a PDF and have a look. So I think it's 11 pages. So you don't have to fill it in like it says here. You don't have to fill it in, that's fine. What I want you to do is just look at the individual items, and I want you to start to appreciate what's required. And remember, this is one form of many. Right, and you can start to see that you've got to fill in numbers, and you've got to put an ABN number and an ACN number, and So let's go through it a little bit together, and then we can spend a bit more time going through and finding things on the actual website. So if you have a look at the form in front of you, so if you can't see it up here or up on that one up there, have it in front of you. So you can see you've got your organisation, you've got to have an ACCT number, what state you're registering in, what your company name is. So you need to make sure that you fill in the forms and you have to register your company name beforehand. Can't be the same as anybody else's. So I actually went and, our assignment with Megan Sparkle. No one's called Megan Sparkle, so no one's got that company name yet. Whether it's a proprietary company, whether it's a limited, or whether you want to use PTY, LTD, or an in full, or whether there's no liability or NL. You can have it in full or shortened. Let's have a look. Whether it's limited by shares, unlimited, limited by guarantee, no liability, who your superannuation trustees are. So remember, in Australia, if you have employees, you must pay super, so 9.5% super. Where are we? The governance, whether you're going to use your constitution or replaceable rules. So remember, I said in the lecture, you can use the corporations law replaceable rules, all right, or you can have your own constitution. So you have to lodge your own constitution. The amount, if it's limited by guarantee, the amount that's guaranteed. The officers of the company, so you need to start putting in who your directors are. Remember, if you're a PTY company, you must have minimum of 1. If you're a public company, you must have 3. Where your registered office is, what your office hours are, because they need to know that, because when you set up everything, you must have, they must have access to all your registers, so your share registers, debenture registers, all that kind of stuff. Your principal place of business doesn't have to be your registered office. Some companies might have a registered office different, but they operate somewhere else. So those your office holders, your directors. You've got to have a company secretary as well, if you're a subsidiary, who the ultimate parent is. All right, and whether they're located here or elsewhere. Item 5 there, you can see different classes of shares as well, whether they're relating to employees, founders' shares, management type shares, ordinary, redeemable, special, etc. So we're up to page 6. In that table, the total number, the total amount paid on these shares, amount unpaid. Sorry, this button is doing strange things. So details there of members. So if you have lots of shareholders, you need to have supplementary lists of who your members are. Why is it doing that? Declaration of, and obviously it needs to be signed by, if you're a public company, it's got to be signed by the directors. If it's a proprietary company, the main director of that company. If you've only got one. There we go. So whether it's if it's a special purpose company, if it's for charitable purposes or something else, or if it's a superannuation trustee, etc., etc. So, and you lodge it, the address is here, the lodgement. So, well, even look, it's like someone's got control of the computer. It didn't do nothing. Oh well, so there you go. You can appreciate what the form is and what it does, and that's one form. But then before you get to this form, you have to have set up your business name, your ACN number, your ABN number, your software, your ABN, your GST, and yeah. So there's lots of other things that you have to set up in the meantime. Okay, so that's that, and I don't know. Now, if you want to go back to the main page of ACCT and have a look at case study 5, start to have a look at some of the requirements there. So number 1, what is ACCT and its role? So go and have a look on the website. Generally, if you look at an area where it says about ACCT, so in the corner over here, you can click on that and you can go about ACCT. Some of the regulatory resources, that's where they used to have like publications and that, so they're calling it regulatory resources now. So have a look in there and look for some things. So on ACCT as well, you can actually look up current prospectuses. Like I said, if you get something in the mail and you want to have a look at it and you might be interested in it, then you can actually look up to see whether they're properly registered. If they're not registered, then it's a scam, and it happens. Right? The biggest scam was a while ago, and I think it was because of that scam that they made it more easily accessible to be able to look at. You've always been able to go to ACCT and find out, but it's never been as easy as what it is now. Right? Everything, technology has facilitated lots of things, so good things and bad things. Now have a look at the regulatory guides as well, and just have a bit of a look around, because they've got details on insolvency, they've got information for businesses, for finance professionals and consumers, right? And sometimes a lot of questions get answered on this website that you might not think are there, all right? So you can, depending on what point of view you're looking at it from, whether you're doing it from your own shareholder point of view, maybe you need to answer some question that's there, or if you're working for a business from the business's point of view, or if you're working for an accounting firm from a finance professional's point of view. You've got your search function there where you can type in a couple of keywords and see what comes up as well. So what I'm trying to highlight is, let's have a bit of a look and look around and see what resources are there for you, because there are significant amounts of resources available to you. Now, you may not use them like now for this, right? But you are doing some company law units. You are doing some other sort of, different law units that might have bits of information that you might be able to read some of the guides on, because sometimes reading a law book compared to reading what their guide says, it might be a bit clearer from here, right? Because sometimes the law books and that may be a bit convoluted, and reading it written a slightly different way might help you a little bit better. But have a look, because it's a good resource. It asks you to go and have a look at this Money Smart area as well. So there's lots of things under that Money Smart which helps individuals, so you as an individual. So I'll leave you to peruse and just amongst yourselves answer those questions. So you don't have to get up in front of the class and say anything like that, but I'll just go around, see what you're finding. So give yourselves another 15-20 minutes, or however long you want. And then if anyone else has got any other questions for me on anything else, on the assignment, on your homework for next week, or anything else, you can ask as we're going around. And we will most likely do groups next week, unless you want to give me your group, if you've decided who you want to be in your group for your assignment, if you're going to be in a group or an individual. If you definitely know you're doing it, want to do it on your own, then you can, but I don't recommend it. It's always better to have a partner. But if you want to do it on your own, then that's fine. You have the choice. It's yours, but it's your decision. All right, so so the sooner you let me know who you want in your group, I'll just write it down, and then if you miss maybe next week, because I want to try and finalise it by week 4, right? Even though the assignment's not due for a while, it's good to get in your groups and actually start maybe doing other things in your groups as well, so you get to know each other, and you get to know each other's timetables and how you work and that, so you can work better. Okay, so just follow that case study 5 through. Four, 2 to 4. Do you want to be in a group? Up to you. 2, 4. I'm not pressuring you. That's you. You work out who you want. So you've got until a week. We'll sort it. We'll finalise it in week 4. So we're missing. How many are we missing? We're missing 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. We're still missing 8 people, I think. We're missing 8 people, yeah, so I don't know who's who or what. That's not your problem. The fact is you're here, and you're here on a public holiday. So I imagine that the people that are here are the people that you want to be in a group with. Yeah. No, because if you start it now, you're practicing. If you start it now, it's just practice because you've only got 30 days. If you want to do it and get it done, you can do it and get it done within the 30 days. It's up to you. So, and remember, you've got 30 days for each trial. You can have 100 trials if you want. So when you start, each time you go in, if you start a trial, you start doing up your company. So I would just start one to familiarise yourself again with everything, and then start the assignment on a new one. And then whoever starts it is the main owner, and then each other person in the group can log in because the owner will email and give you access to do everything. So you can. So that's right. Okay, so we have someone here who's had experience doing the assignment, and she'll tell you if you do it on your own, you'll struggle. Yeah, but you struggled. Yeah, but you still struggled. So let's pretend that they didn't exist. You struggled doing it on your own, didn't you? Yeah. So don't choose to do it on your own if you can have some friends, and make sure those friends actually do their bit. Because it is, and she'll be able to tell you that it takes time. Takes time. Yeah, it's not hard, but it takes time, doesn't it? That's the difficulty. Yeah. But I've had students do it on their own, and they obviously, like online students, doing it on their own, and they've done it and they've been very successful because they're dedicated. You sit down, boom, 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 no interruptions, and they probably did spend 30 hours on it, you know. But if you've got 4 units, lots of assignments due for everything, you've got to be smart. You've got to work smart, and that's what you have to do in the real world. It's all part of the real world and delegating and... Well, technically you could, because you've tried it and you've got a good idea of what's required. But the mid-semester's week, everything else. You don't have to go to the labs if you've already done it. But you don't want to, these guys haven't done it before, so you need to go to the labs. You need to familiarise yourself with it unless you want to take over. So here, boom, 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 this is how you do it. I can give you a manual early. Yeah, I can give you a manual early if you want. It is online. That hard copy, yeah. Yeah, if you want a manual early, I'll work out how many groups will we have. Because last time it worked out that I could have 2 manuals per group. So, because I've only got about 20 manuals. You can do it and give it back. But just remember, you have to negotiate with your group members and don't pressure them if they've got other stuff to do. I don't know what, because there's some subjects where they've got to do presentations every week and stuff like that. I don't know whether they've still got that. Yeah. So you have to negotiate which suits everyone. Yeah. Yeah, if you want to. It's up to you. Got to make up your mind. Negotiate. And sort it. Sit down and work out. That's why it's a good idea to get together with your group members beforehand and work out what everybody's schedule is, when your assignments are due. If you're all in the same subjects, it makes life easier because you know what everyone's got. But if you're doing different subjects, then you need to see what everyone's got, when you can meet, what are you going to do, and if you wanted to, because you've done it once before, if you want to take a leadership role, but then you have to negotiate that as well. But I wouldn't want to push it. Yeah, I wouldn't want to push everybody either, because you've got to negotiate where everybody's at. Yeah. Yeah. If you're all of the same mind, because I had one group a couple of semesters ago, they would just, boom, they were jets, and they all just, there was like 5 of them, the whole lot of them just went boom, 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 and just did everything and wanted extra stuff. But I mean, they knew what they were doing. They were at a higher level than other students. Most students coming into the unit have never done accounting before at all. And that first introduction to accounting was 5013. So they had 3 people in that group that had done accounting before, so they knew exactly what they were doing. So they were, but all of them got over 90%. Yeah. But they knew what they were doing, and they were like that, and they just went. But it's everyone. As long as you negotiate, then that's all you can do. Sorry? Yeah. Yeah. But you don't want to rush it either, because remember, if you rush, you might miss things. So you've got to make sure that. But it always is, isn't it? Yeah, but the idea is you don't keep doing it and madly rush and hand it in at 5 o'clock. I know that that's what ends up happening, but you're supposed to do it. Should I give everyone a bonus? They get in 2 weeks early, so week 7 and week 8 is the is the workshop, right? And then if you get it in, say, week 10, I can give you a bonus. I don't know. Does that incentive? Does that incentivize you, and does it help you? Up to you. Up to you. Work it out. Hello.
Actually, I'm Murray, and it's Muya Lee.
Young
Murray, my English name.
Muya?
Yeah,
Muya?
Murray.
Murray?
Yeah, English name.
Murray, as in like Andrew Murray, the tennis player.
Yeah, so what I'm asking is, how many group members can I find for this reading report?
4.
Maximum.
4. Doesn't it say it in there? So that's the unit plan. It's actually already on Blackboard.
Yeah.
Right, if you read the instructions in Blackboard, it says between 2 and 4.
Okay.
How to assess like if we do a group
No, we don't have an essay, we have a report.
you see the total report and give us everyone's score is same.
Yes. Yes.
Not see like I do the first part.
No, everyone gets the same. Everyone must contribute evenly and equitably, unless you have a situation where you feel that someone hasn't contributed, but that's why you have to figure out who your group members are. And if they're not contributing, you go, you're off. Go and do it on your own, find another group. But I mean, you've got to, that's why if you get to know your group members early, know how they operate. No, 4, 2 to 4. You can do it on your own, or you can have between 2 and 4. Right, so because 2 is a group, 1 is an individual, and 4 is the maximum. If there happens to be one person that's, sitting, that wants to be in a group, then maybe we can have one group with 5 or something. So I don't know how it'll work out. Ask Rachel. Rachel, is it a lot of work, the assignment? The answer is yes. It's not difficult, but it's a lot of work. It's a volume of work. But it is a little bit less, Rachel. It is a little bit less. It is a little bit less. And you see it go, oh, that's easy. It's not hard. It's a volume. Yeah. So there's 2 parts to it. Part 1 is you have to process. So all the transactions in 0, that's number 1. So you've got to add them in, process transactions, do balance day adjustments, done. Then you've got to run reports, and then you have to edit those reports and present a quality report, which is a report is, but is it the right format for a report?
I see.
All right, because what comes from 0 may not be what you need to put in your report. And then you have to give me an executive summary. So there's 2 parts to it. And so it's volume and editing. Questions? Any questions? No?
We went through the website already. I think you gave us the activity and
Yeah.
the role kind of
Yeah, no, that's all right. It's just finding your way around and finding your way around the website and looking at the data that's available. If you're doing research for something and wanting to find stuff, you'd be surprised what you can find on the ACCT website. So there's quite a lot of stuff to help people and to help business and to help individuals as well. Like that Money Smart website's quite good.
Yeah, I think they have like cases as well.
Yeah.
What happened to that case?
Yeah. But it's not just about the cases. They've got regulatory guidelines and guidelines for all sorts of things, So ASIC's got bucket loads of stuff. But it's finding your way around it. And if you've seen it once, you remember. You might not use it, but 5 years from now, you go, I remember. You know, I remember, because if you might think that someone's a bit dodgy, right, then they've got a place where you can go to look up people that have been bankrupt, things like that, or whether someone has been prevented from being a director or being a company secretary or something like that. So they've got registers of things like that, you know. So it's just having, you know, had a little fossick around so that you understand. No. No, you just have to be in the same unit and that's fine. No, you don't have to be in the same lab. It helps if you're together, and that way you communicate better if you're together. Well, you know, there's only 25 in each. So if there's a space, there's a space. If there's not, I don't think they're all completely booked. But there's 2 on Wednesday and 1 on Friday. The one on Friday, remember, is going to get cancelled for week 8 because it's Good Friday. So those people on Friday will come to the Wednesday ones. So you'll have to come to either one. So I don't know. But everyone will fit into either one because it's 25. There's 50 spaces basically. But yeah, that one on the Friday, the second one will get cancelled, but I've left it. So there's not many people enrolled in that one. So if you all wanted to move to the Friday one to stay together, yeah. But the Wednesday, but the Friday one for the week 8, everything will be shut anyway. So you can stay for the one, but you'll have to go the Wednesday for the other. Okay, did you have a look on the Money Smart one in particular? So in this Money Smart one, there's quite a few different things in here, and they've got a number of different calculators and resources. I don't know what's wrong with this mouse, but it asks you to go to the ASX lists and you can check a prospectus. That was one of the activities. So if you ever got a prospectus, you can check by doing that. You can check a financial advisor because you need to be a registered financial advisor. If you're getting advice from somebody and they're saying that they're a registered advisor, with everything going on with the banking industry at the moment, you know, you might want to check up, or an insurance broker. I think somewhere there's quite a few different things and different school scams. They highlight different scams that might be coming up. Quite a few websites around the place actually do scams. There's a specific scam alert website that actually covers quite a lot of stuff. It's got mortgage calculators and all sorts. So these things here help out individuals as well. There's an income tax calculator. Right, there's bucket loads of things in here. So what I was just highlighting is that you would be surprised what you could find. That Money Smart one in particular is good for individuals, but when it comes to finding out stuff about companies, if we can get there, within here you can find out different things about insolvency. There's lots of reports and statistics as well. ACCT do a lot of statistics, and they highlight different industry groups that are having trouble in that as well. So if you're looking at getting a job in a particular industry, you might want to rethink it if there's a lot of insolvency or bankruptcy. So insolvency and bankruptcy from an accounting point of view can be a good area to go into, but you have to be a very specific personality. You have to be able to separate your personal life from your work life, because it can be very difficult because you're dealing with negativity all the time. So you're dealing with people that are unhappy, creditors that are unhappy, shareholders that are unhappy, everybody's unhappy because it's bankruptcy, right? Therefore, so the good side of it is that maybe you can help somebody avoid bankruptcy and you can help fix it or save part of it, right? That's the good side. The bad side is that most of the time when bankruptcy and insolvency is involved, you're just dealing with a lot of negativity. So you have to be able to handle it and separate it, and you probably need to go and train yourself. It's a learned skill because, you know, people commit suicide and things because of, you know, when things go wrong. So you need to, if you're not someone who, if you don't think you can handle it, then you only do it for a short period of time until you go to something else, or you learn how to, right from the beginning, you've got to understand that it's dealing with difficulty and negativity a lot. There's a lot of court time and that kind of thing as well. So, but it's very lucrative, because as long as there's business, we'll always have a job, because we'll either be in those businesses or we'll be helping wind them up through insolvency. But it's a specialist area. A friend of mine was an insolvency specialist in America. Surprisingly, she worked for Arthur Andersen before they got into a lot of trouble with Enron. And luckily she'd finished with them when she came home, and so she didn't have to bear all the scrutiny of it all. But it was very lucrative, and she would fly in America. She'd fly all over the place dealing with stuff, and she did really well, really well out of it for herself, because the fees that you charge are probably a little bit higher than if you are doing your normal financial accounting and, you know, management accounting type stuff. But like I said, be warned, it takes a certain personality to be able to handle it. Some people think they can handle it and they really can't. I couldn't handle it. I don't like dealing with that kind of thing. It's upset me too much, because, you know, you take everything to heart, and, you know, you're always trying to do the right thing, and then a lot of the time you just can't do what you might want to do because it's just not possible. And then, you know, people's lives are changed. Because I think, you know, when Enron went down, a lot of, there was Enron, WorldCom and a whole bunch of other companies. I think the suicide rate across America went through the roof, basically, because so many people lost their money. So, and people involved with the companies themselves committed suicide as well. So this is going back that's nearly 20 years now. Okay, so let's have a quick look. So I got just a little bit of time. There we are, that's the right one. So you've got your assessments. Now just a reminder, if anyone's got a CAP plan, you need to let me know ASAP so I can handle that for your mid-semester. Now I'll try and put the mid-semester study pack up at the end of the week. You know when it is. Your assignment is here. This is what you need to have a look at. Okay, your zero assignment is there. You need to read what's required and then consider what you want out of your group, whether you're going to do it on your own or you're going to do it in your group. So you know that you've got to set up zeros, two primary parts. Number one, you set up the zero. You're given the chart of accounts here, but that's not everything. So remember, there's some extra things you're going to have to do, and that's what the training lab is for. Those of you who want to go ahead, or if you've used zero before, you'll be able to figure it out. Or you can come and ask if you wanted to get into it sooner. So there's your marking guide. But that's your trial balance. There's a number of transactions there from the 1st of June to the 30th of June that need to be processed, right? Then there's a number of additional items, so accruals, balance day adjustments, etc. So there's 11 of those. There's 11 pieces of additional info, and there is 13 items of adjustments. Right, and there might be a few others, all right, that maybe bonus marks are attached to. All right, there are some deliberate items that are in there that are either incorrect or omitted, and it does not change the way you do the assignment. You can do the assignment as is without picking any of them up and still get a good mark and still get 100% basically. So any of the little things that I've put in there are attached to bonuses. Now, the other thing if you want me to, maybe if you want to get it in early, maybe I'll make a little thing. If you get it in by week 10, you can get a bonus for getting it in early as well. All right. So I'll send out a note to that effect if you want to get it done earlier, because quite a few students have said that all your assignments are pretty much due that same week, week 12. All right, if you're doing multiple units. So if you want to get it in early, I'll give you a bonus. All right. So, but I will make it official. I'll have an email to that effect and make it official. All right, but don't feel pressure yourself. You know, you don't have to don't put yourself under undue pressure. And there is a lot to do. All right, it's not hard. It's actually not hard, but there is a lot to do. Rachel will tell you that. She'll back me up. 100%. Yes. So, yeah. And remember, it's important that the quality of your report, so you do your process your transactions and then you provide me with a report. That report has to be of a good quality, master's level quality. All right? It's not just a case of printing out the reports, attaching them as an appendix and writing a few things saying, oh, yeah, they've got cash, they haven't done this, they've done this, well, blah, 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 done. All right? That's not good enough. You need to make sure that you do an appropriate executive summary, and I've given you 2 pages. Remember, in the real world, they only want 1 page or even half a page to actually describe everything that's gone on. So obviously I want to give you a little bit more, and you need to think about how you edit your report accordingly. Okay, has anyone got any other questions for me? So we won't talk about this next week, but if you want to think about your groups, if you want to tell me your group members now, then we can when we finish. But we want to try and organise groups by week 4, have it all finalised, because I'd like you to start communicating and interacting and getting to know one another at whatever level, so that you can get a feeling for people's schedules and all that kind of stuff. And if things are going to work, they'll work. If they're not, I don't want anyone coming to me a week before it's due saying, I've organised this meeting, that meeting, and here's a text message and an email and I've done all this and they won't let me know what's going on. I'm not. You're all adults. It's your thing. You've got to sort that out. So you all have to figure that bit out and make sure that each person contributes an equitable amount, because you're all getting the same mark. All right, and the best way to do it is to, ideally, if you've never done Xero before, come to the workshops, learn how to do it. Right, and if you're keen and you've got time, I know everyone is time poor, but if you've got time, the manual is online. It is there for you, and it's really easy. Like it's a couple of like the website, the ACCT website. You know how websites change. Well, there's a few changes in Xero that aren't necessarily reflected in the manual. The manual's probably it hasn't been updated because it's Xero's manual, but it's easy. It's actually easy to figure out how the little bits have changed, and I'll point them out in the workshop. But if you went ahead, you wouldn't have too much trouble, and you can always ask anyway if you've got a bit of extra time to sit there and start figuring it out, because it's not that hard. All you do is log in, you set up a login, you need your phone because it requires like an extra, it's like a double password that you need to get in. You start a trial, voila. Then you start doing the manual in your trial company and you figure it out. You go through your setting it up, chart of accounts, process a few transactions, buy some things, you know, sell some things, that kind of stuff. It's really straightforward. And it's a very, very easy package. So a couple of people have used Xero before and they'll tell you it's very easy. If you've used MYOB or Reckon or the old QuickBooks, or any of the other more sophisticated ones, Oracle, Finance One, SAP, any of those ones, if you've been anywhere near them. The good thing about Xero is their online help is actually really good as well. So they've got lots of little videos that you can watch. So you can go to their help site and type in a question, and 9 times out of 10 they'll be able to tell you what to do. And once you figure out how the systems are set up and how they're all the same, it's actually not that difficult. All right, and if you make a mistake, no, it's usually pretty easy to fix. All right. Okay, well that's it then. We're done. Thank you for coming today, even though it was a public holiday everywhere else. Next week, try to do your homework. Try to do the questions, as many of them as you can. You know you've got the answers to quite a few of them. And that way we get more done in class if you've done your homework, and have your questions ready if you need to, if you're not quite sure. Okay, I'll see you next week.